The newsroom, I'm Jason Bristol here. As always, we are breaking down the Texans game following the Texans game. Today, it's a 20-12 win over the Miami Dolphins. How are you feeling about this game? It was interesting, a lot happening, but in the end, the Texans now starting this 3-game stretch in 11 days with a W, and that's what's most important. We are, of course, waiting for DeMeco Ryans and Stroud at the podium from NRG Stadium. We'll bring them live to you as soon as they hit that podium. Some of the statistics in this game, well, on offense, it wasn't pretty. But it rarely is with this team. Stroud, efficiency, yeah, he was efficient. 18 of 26, only 131 yards passing, with 2 touchdowns and 4 quarterback sacks. And then when you look at the running game, Joe Mixon's been so important to this team, just 12 carries for 23 yards. Dare Ogunbowale had, he's your leading rusher in this game with 35 yards. It's kind of interesting that the Texans' most exciting offensive play was off a special teams play. And I think that kind of talks about or reflects what kind of state this Texans offense is in. But the biggest story is obviously the defense. The way it's played, intercepting Tua Tagovailoa 3 times. He came in with an excellent touchdown to interception ratio this season. And really the Miami Dolphins offense, they talked about it on the broadcast that they do a lot of different looks and you can't get caught up in the showmanship of it. And the Texans, thank goodness for that defense, because without that defense, this may have been a different game. Devon Achane, local guy, 41 yards rushing on 12 carries. Tagovailoa was 29 of 40 for 196, 1 touchdown and 3 INTs. As always, we're taking your one word to describe this game. Give me one word to describe what you saw here on KHOU 11, and the Texans beating the Miami Dolphins 20-12. I'm going to pull up your comments here. But we have our whiteboard ready, waiting for you to weigh in here as we await DeMeco Ryans and Stroud. Let me pull up some more stats here. That Texans defense, I don't know if it's good enough to carry this team in the playoffs, but it's going to have to. I mean, can it stop the Kansas City Chiefs? I mean, it has faced the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to find out. The biggest enemy right now, for lack of a better word, is the fact that this offense has not been productive and does not put together long drives. So that defense typically, as we've seen in the past, can be out on the field for a long time. Time of possession in this game, here we go again. Miami Dolphins had the ball for 33 minutes and 24 seconds. The Texans, 26 minutes. So you're talking a 7-minute differential. That's a lot of time on the field. Penalties, not great for the Texans either. 7 for 70 yards. But, man, what that defense did to this group of Miami Dolphins was really impressive. Total yards, they allowed the Dolphins 224 total yards. Now, that's the positive. On the flip side, you look at the Texans' offense, 181 yards total in this game. Thank goodness for that defense. Betty is weighing in. Mary Jane is with us as well. Mary Jane says, great game, always a gamble. Yeah, with the way this Texans team plays this year, yeah, you never know what you're going to get. Certainly another part of this game was Grant Dubose, the player for the Miami Dolphins, who was taken to the hospital, which was a very scary situation. Medical staff there removing his jersey and face mask, had him hooked up to an oxygen mask. And that was a really difficult scene to watch. But that's what the medical personnel at these stadiums, they train for this. In fact, I think it was last year the Texans invited us in. It was either the beginning of this season or last season. They invited us in to see the precautionary measures, the training, the steps, everything that they do to prepare for a situation like the one we saw today at NRG. All right, I'm going to stop talking here and start writing. So my one word, I think it's got to be defensive related. I think it has to be related to the defense. Once again, we are still waiting for DeMeco Ryans and CJ Stroud to take the podium and talk about this 20-12 win in which the Texans are now 9-5 and can win the division depending on what happens with the Colts game. Dolphins are 6-8, by the way. Swarm, Robert. That might be the winner. Robert Mullen says swarm. Robert also says Jekyll and Hyde, but we won. Now we got to have the Broncos beat the Colts, as I was just mentioning. And prayers to Grant Dubose, his friends and family in the Miami Dolphins. On point, Robert. Thank you for weighing in. Boy, swarm is a great word. I can't shut this down after one word. I can't shut it down. We got to keep going here. Dolphins had 62 total plays, 224 yards. Larry says, need a new offensive coordinator. I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. Something is just not right offensively. We all see it. I tend to think it's a lot of it based on the blocking and what's happening around CJ Stroud. The whole thing in sports is make your opponent uncomfortable, because these guys do so many reps and repetitions and practice and scenarios, and all about sports is about making your opponent uncomfortable. And I don't think CJ has been truly comfortable in the pocket this year. They did roll him out a number of times, which I thought was a good idea, given that you again had more issues, this time injury with the offensive line. Juice Scruggs wasn't in there today. Blake Fisher was there, playing right tackle. Boy, swarm is such a good word. I think overwhelming. I think that this Texans defense overwhelmed the opposition today. So I'm going to say overwhelming. Miguel says, sorry, I'm in Wisconsin. What was the score? It was 20-12. Texans win. Texans win 20-12 over the Miami Dolphins. Texans with 3 in the first, 10 in the second, 7 in the third, and then the Dolphins had 6 in the second, 6 in the third. Dolphins also missed a PAT, which, boy, if they come down and score, it's a different ball game. But obviously having that 8-point cushion was really important for the Texans. Jason Bristol here in the KHOU 11 newsroom. As always, we're breaking down what we saw from the Texans game, this time at NRG, and this time a W. Of course, up next, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Ravens 4 days later. It was so important to get this win. So important to win this football game leading into those two games. Certainly, the crew that we use on KHOU 11 Sports Extra, some of them thought that the Texans, the way they had been playing, it was realistic. This group could go 0-3 in those 3 games. Now, worst case scenario is 1-2. Christian Ford says, awesome win. Let's go, my Houston Texans. Robert, again, our defense really stepped up today, without a doubt. Miami has so many weapons, and what was really impressive was the way the Texans, and they highlighted, CBS highlighted one of the plays, I think it was a 3rd and 17, and a lot of the looks that Miami gives you, I don't want to call them gadgets, but it's a lot of, and I forgot the term that they used, but the Texans basically stayed at home, stuck to their coverage, and were able to snuff out a 3rd and 17, Kamari Lassiter, with that big tackle on 3rd down to force a punt. And that's what you have to do. Robert says, and Patrick Mahomes was limping off the field at the end of the game. He might have a bad ankle. Not wishing injury on anybody, but if he's not starting for KC next week, that should help us. Here's the thing. It seems like Patrick Mahomes limps around after every game, and he's always playing. If there's a game, Patrick Mahomes is going to play. That's the way he is. But Kansas City, you talk about the Texans winning close games. Kansas City's won a lot of close games as well. But you're right. Any edge that you can get, not having Patrick Mahomes at 100% and having to deal with this defense, that's going to help the Texans, certainly, without a doubt. Nancy says, great win. Christian says, awesome game for Derek Stingley. 2 interceptions. Nico Collins has 2 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, Derek Stingley Jr., remember there was this time when we thought, he's not going to make it? Well, he's made it. And now,
first off, I'd like to just start off by just giving all praise, honor, and glory to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for just continuously blessing us. It's a huge honor to get to do what we do. And also, for me, his prayers go out to Grant Dubose. Really seeing a guy down on the field like that is very hard to see. And we're just praying that all is well with him and that he recovers quickly as possible. Just overall for this game, just defensively, our guys stepped up and did a really good job of closing out the game the way we needed to. Stingley is playing just unbelievable football right now. You ask him to cover, man covers to go and get 2 picks versus a really good offense. That was huge for us. Kalen stepped up with the pick as well. Our D-line, the way they rushed, Will, Daniil, they continue to wreak havoc on the opposing offenses, playing on their side of the line of scrimmage. Just overall to our entire defensive secondary, I thought the guys did a great job in coverage versus an explosive offense, just executing the right way and everybody playing together, swarming. Really proud of Christian Harris for stepping up and long battle back from injury, but he stepped up and he was able to go out and play quality football for us. Henry stepping in for Aziz did a really great job of running the show, communicating. Just really proud of the effort. Offensively, CJ, Nico, that connection is outstanding. Again, for those guys to connect, get 2 touchdowns, and for our offense to get points off of the turnovers. That was a huge thing for us. Just so excited for our guys, proud of the way they finished the game. That's been a big emphasis for us, is finishing games. No matter how it looks, it's finishing, and proud that they finished the right way.
DeMeco, at what point did you all decide to have Stingley shadow? Was that before the game, in the middle, and second from that, how important was it to get a win in the way you were?
Stingley was just moving around pretty much however they lined up. We have game plan adjustments. Of course, we made some adjustment there when Waddle went out, right, knowing that Tyreek was their most explosive guy. So that would be in our best interest to make sure our best cover guy was on their best receiver.
DeMeco, you claimed earlier this week that you didn't know the clinching scenario, but regardless, the focus was on Miami.
I do not know. You got something to share.
Well, I will tell you, with a Colts loss today, you guys would clinch the AFC South for a second straight year. To take care of business and to now put yourself in that position, just how nice is that, especially so early in the season like this?
Yeah, the mindset for us is always control what we can control. And for us today, just how can we go out and play good football, complementary football versus the Dolphins. And that's what won the game for us. It was complementary football. It's, I talked about it earlier, getting the points off of the takeaways. Also, probably the biggest play in the game is the execution of our fake punt. Jake Hansen, Darray, the entire punt unit did a really nice job of just executing that the right way. We got the look we wanted, and guys were on it. Frank did a great job of having those guys ready to go in that moment, and they made a huge play for us. I thought our I thought our punt return unit did a really great job of handling their speed on the outside to give Tank and Rob time to get started with some of the returns. So just collectively as a team, that's what it looks like, especially in the month of December, playing complementary football.
DeMeco, and this is say very respectfully, after the Bose injury situation, did you feel like the defense became a little bit tentative on a couple of snaps to try to get back into the groove? Because it seemed like they seemed a little bit tentative to want to really start putting shots on guys, particularly on the plays that looked like they could have been. They just sort of let off a little bit, and that's say very respectfully now.
Yeah, when that happens, when you see a player go down the way he did and how long he was on the field, I think everybody, you could use just the NFL brotherhood, like it's instant just respect and prayers are up, making sure he's okay, right? And he gets up and he has a speedy recovery. And I think all of our guys, you felt that energy leave the entire stadium. It left our sideline and theirs as well, and rightfully so. Like anytime, I never want to see anybody go down on the field, especially in that manner. And our guys, of course, I think the energy was low for everyone there, and our guys were able to, pick it up there towards the end.
Well, DeMeco, in the first half, when you had the 4th and 2, some of us were wondering, well, gee, why did we not go for the first down there instead of the field goal? But after seeing the fake punt and the 35-yard gain for the first down in the second half, was that part of the scheme, just maybe to lull them to sleep and make them think you wouldn't consider a fake, or did it just turn out that way?
Yeah, it wasn't to lull them to sleep, not at all. I think it was just a well-executed play. Like when you have plays like that, it's about how trustworthy are the guys who you're asking, right, to execute those plays. And Dare is one of our most trustworthy players on our team, and is putting the ball in his hands right there. He came through big for us. And the blocking, I don't want to lose sight of that. The way the guys blocked to create such a huge lane for him, it's excellent execution.
We'll take these last two.
The Dolphins are obviously, desperate to keep the playoff hopes alive. And Joe Mixon talked earlier this week that you all were desperate. Did you kind of sense that from your team throughout this game, that they were playing with the desperation that they really needed to play well?
I felt our team, throughout this week, getting back from the bye and just throughout this game, I felt like our team was calm and confident, and that's where we have to be. It's, we don't panic, or we don't lose our minds in the chaos that's in front of us. And for us, if we remain calm and we just play together and focus on what we can control, and we'll be in a good spot. So that desperation piece is every week in NFL. Everyone is desperate to win, but even though you're in desperation mode, you still have to go out, execute, and remain calm.
Last one.
DeMeco, do you think that, would you say that Derek Stingley Jr. is the player of the game, of the week, of your career?
Of my career, that's a good one. No, he's Stingley. He's thank you for the question. Again, he's definitely, to me, that play he makes there to end the game in 2 minutes, that's a big-time play, and not a lot of players can do that. So, I know all the games aren't over, but I think he's very deserving of player of the week, player of the month. He's done an outstanding job of just, when teams even try to challenge him, he's going to go get the football, right? And can't be more proud of Sting just for what we ask him to do. He steps up every week. No matter what we ask him to do, he steps up, and he continues to grow as a player and pro and make the plays we need to make. And there's not a better play I've seen than that play he made today. All right, thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
So that was DeMeco Ryans following this 20-12 win over the Miami Dolphins. DeMeco, tons of praise, obviously, for Derek Stingley Jr., Kalen Bullock, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, and mentioned about finishing games. Also said no matter how tough it looks, we need to finish games. They finished, but again, this was a struggle offensively again. And certainly it helps when you're working with a short field. Other than maybe the Texans' first drive off the top of my head, in which they got a field goal, sustaining drives have been an issue for this offense. And it helps when your defense is making plays and your special teams is making plays and you have a shorter field to work with. It will be very interesting to see, very interesting to see how this team fares offensively against the Chiefs. Definitely the Chiefs, because that's a normal work week for, minus 1 day. But that short week against the Baltimore Ravens, that's going to be incredibly difficult for both teams. Looking at more of your comments here on Facebook, I'm on the KHOU 11 News Facebook page as we await CJ Stroud's arrival into the interview room. Some people mentioned about Kansas City and if the Chiefs secured the playoff spot, why play your top players for a full game? And Robert chimed in and said, well, because home field advantage is still in play for the Kansas City Chiefs, and 100% correct. Also, there is this delicate balancing act that we've seen year in and year out. How much do you play your starters when you've locked up a playoff spot? How much do you rest guys? It's a very, very delicate balance, and yes, there's always the risk of injury, but more often than not, it seems that the better off you are, the more guys you play, at least at some point in a game down the stretch, the better off you are during the playoffs. Let's see. Sherry says, welcome back, Christian Harris. We missed you. I'll be eager to see and interested to see how many plays Christian Harris was actually a part of. I have the stats up right now, but the game book is not out. The game book is basically every single number you could essentially want from a game. I don't see that yet. Let's see, what else? Vincent says it's the freaking blockers that don't block. They're in the game for fame and just pay a salary. I think this is more pertinent. The GM needs to concentrate on drafting a whole new offensive line if CJ, because right now, basically he's not happy with the offensive line. Here's the thing, and we've mentioned this over and over and over, this organization has invested in the offensive line, and this is what we're left with. Laramie Tunsil is generally regarded as a quality left tackle. Penalties and other penalties notwithstanding, but you really have 3 first-round picks when Kenyon Green is healthy. Kenyon Green, Laramie Tunsil, and Titus Howard. Those are 3 first-round picks. So it's not for a lack of trying. And I feel like a skipping CD because I say this maybe once or twice a month, it seems like. Now, is it the right group, the right guys? Obviously, that question will be answered in the offseason. But it's not for a lack of trying. They have definitely invested in the offensive line. Nancy says, and scoring in the red zone, that's been an issue. Robert says, I think we have a couple injuries on the O-line as well. That is correct. Kenyon Green, I don't know how much action, but the big injury, at least in terms of guys who were expected to play, that was Juice Scruggs. Juice Scruggs has been your center for most of the season, and he then slid over. He's had an up and down year. Second-year player from Penn State. You have Patterson playing at center, and then obviously Blake Fisher, a rookie. You don't want too many rookies. You don't want too many rookies on an offensive line. I think the Dolphins line, for the most part, given the injuries they have on their line, they seem to do okay. But your inactives for this game were Stover, Juice Scruggs, Jerry Hughes, Steven Sims, and Kurt Heinisch. I liked seeing Tank Dell on punt returns. I mean, he certainly brings this electrifying ability to change a game. And speaking of changing the game, here's C.J. Stroud at the podium from NRG
Strip sack. Can you talk about the playmakers you have on defense? Seems like that side of the ball, guys can also really change the game in a hurry.
Yeah, first I just want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this opportunity, to play on this great Sunday after a bye week, against a really good Miami team. And, Sting is one of a kind, bro. His ball skills and how he can play the ball in the air is the best I've ever seen in my life, Like, I'll compare him to Garrett Wilson, who I played with in college, who can just track the ball in any way and then twerk his body to catch it. So he reminds me of him catching the ball. And honestly, I'm trying to get him a play on offense one of these days. I think he's that good with the ball in his hands. So, I'm really happy for him and, just proud of him and everything he's doing.
Has he lobbied to play receiver or anything like that with you?
He don't really talk much, so I know I always joke with him, but he don't really say. He just kind of like, he don't say nothing. Not too many words out of Sting, but yeah.
CJ, obviously, you knew that this season was going to be tougher because you were playing a first-place schedule, and of course, a whole lot more tape on you. But you're sitting here now at 9-5. The Colts lose the late afternoon game for the second year in a row. You wrap up the AFC South. How good of a feeling is that, and how do you feel about where this team's sitting right now?
Yeah, we're at where we're at. I think we work really hard to get to this point. The one thing that I'm learning is not to dwell in the past, and to, of course we wish that, we won some closer games that we were in, but same time, those are the adversities that'll take us over the hump, and I feel like, today we took another step, to play for the division. This early, in December is kind of cool, and I have to wait to the very back end, so. Yeah, man, I really, of course, want to win the division today. But if not, we go back next week and we chop some more wood and carry some more water.
CJ, I know probably like point of emphasis might have been like making sure you walk the offense catches in on turnovers. You all did that largely today. How important did you feel like that was, and what did you feel like was key to being able to do that a lot better today?
Yeah, that was a focus of mine. That we have to learn how to score touchdowns off of turnovers, but more importantly, just points in general, just getting points, and we're able to do that. I think on every turnover, even the fake that we ran on fourth down, which I thought was a great call by Frank. Shout out to Frank and them boys, and Weeksy on the great snap. But it's complimentary football. Our defense getting turnovers like that and be able to reward them, and I feel like we definitely could have been better in a lot of ways, but happy with the win, and got to just move on.
You've been without Stephon for some time now. When you kind of think back and reflect, what are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have faced without Stephon, and how are you trying to handle those?
Really just his energy is the main thing that pops out to me. Just who he is as a person, how much he loves the game, his preparation. Those are things that we all miss of him. And I talk to him every week and try to just encourage him. That's not an easy thing to go through. But he's in good spirits. He's rooting us on. And I have so much love for that dude, man. And I know hopefully I can play with him again because I think we were just getting started. And I'm just really, 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 really just proud of him and how he's growing just in his faith and and just who he is maturing just as a man. And sometimes those valleys do that to you. And I'm just proud of him to be able to respond like he is.
Well, CJ, of course, now you're on a short week. Saturday, you go to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. 13-1 is their record, but as we all know, they've had really, really close games. You've got to have a really good feeling about the possibility of going up there and grabbing a W away from them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of respect for those guys. Back-to-back champs. And Mahomes is definitely the best in the league, doing it at a very, very high level every year. Somebody that I look up to, and just excited to go and line up against them and have opportunity to play in an environment like that. I heard it's crazy, so I'm excited for it. But it's not ever going to be a cakewalk. That dude is really good. Kelsey, somebody I really respect. Their defense is very, I would say, underrated. They've kept them in a lot of games and won a lot of games for them and helped them, get turnovers and keep the offense to, I think, like under 20 points, I believe. But it's a lot of respect for them and excited for that challenge.
CJ, how do you feel like y'all handled the switch with having Titus at left guard and then elevating Blake to right tackle as far as communication went?
Yeah, I thought it went great. I thought With Titus not really practicing there all week, he stepped in and did as best as he could, and I thought he did really great. I thought that was one of the best interior D-lines that we played this year. I think 92 is very underrated. He's a dog, and, Calais is, like the Terminator. He's huge. He's like 6'7", and, and he's putting his hands up. He's really good. So, that interior does a really good job, and their D-line coach, hats off to him. They do a good job of pick stunting and things like that. But, when the time was there, I feel like they did a great job picking those up, and I was able to deliver in those instances. But, I definitely think that they did a great job. And for Blake to step in like as a young guy is amazing.
So there you have it, C.J. Stroud at the podium following this 20-12 win over the Miami Dolphins. C.J. singing the praises of Derek Stingley Jr., saying Sting is one of a kind. Even hinted, or not hinted, suggested that Sting should play a little on offense. That would be interesting. Also, very happy with the work of the offensive line given the shuffling that Titus Howard moving to left guard, and then Blake Fisher at right tackle due to the injury to Juice Scruggs. He thought that Titus did a really good job at left guard. And I know this is what some of you have mentioned, or at least Robert mentioned, chop some more wood and carry some more water. Every guy has their sayings, and that's a popular one for CJ. But in this case, I think it's very applicable that this team, they haven't really wowed us on offense, but they keep chopping wood and carrying water. And that's why they have 9 wins right now, guaranteed to have a winning season, and it appears will eventually have an AFC South title, their second one in a row under DeMeco Ryans. Sherry says the Chiefs are a really good team, and so are we. #Texans. That's interesting. That's interesting. I think the Chiefs really are a really good team. I don't know if the Texans are quite at the really, really good level yet. I think they're good, but consistency, especially in offense, I think right now that's holding them back from being a really good team. Because when you look at the upper echelon now of the AFC, the Texans I still think are in that next tier because of what's happening offensively with this group. So, when we look at our one word, I think Robert Mullins shut the whole thing down, because when he said swarm, that might be. No, it is the one word to describe what happened at NRG. And what happened at NRG is a Texans win, 20-12 over the Miami Dolphins. As always, I appreciate everyone for hanging out, providing your feedback, giving us your one word. And we'll do it again on Saturday following the Texans and Chiefs. An extremely difficult game given the opponent and what lies ahead, being that you have another game in 4 days on Christmas. So that's going to wrap it up here from the KHOU 11 newsroom. I'm Jason Bristol. Once again, your final score, Texans 20, Miami Dolphins 12. Until next time, have a great week, everybody.